Welcome to True Wellness with Dr. D, the podcast where we explore what it takes to live with vitality, balance, and purpose. I am Dr. D, and each week I'll bring you powerful tools, inspiring stories, and expert insights to help you thrive in every area of your life. From health and wellness to mindset and navigating life's challenges, this podcast is your guide to creating a life of true well-being. Be sure to check the show notes and grab your free copy of the True Wellness Checklist so you can get started on your journey to true wellness right away. Now, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of True Wellness with Dr. D. Today is going to be fun because I have a question for you. When was the last time you actually gave yourself permission to be great? When was the last time where you were like, you know what? I am freaking awesome and I can be awesome and I don't have to shrink myself down. And that, my friends, is what we are talking about here today with Lisa Pezik. Lisa she is great. She is awesome. She is the epitome of what we're going to talk about today. So Lisa, thanks for being here with us.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for asking me. It was an immediate yes when you asked. No hesitations, no questions.
I know. So you guys, what happened was I saw on Lisa's Facebook feed, she had put some kind of post to be like, you know what? I'm giving myself permission to be great. And I was like, oh my God, Lisa, we got to talk about that on the podcast, because what I find is so many of us, we shrink ourselves. We forget that we are great. We hear the little gremlin voices in our heads. We shrink ourselves down. We don't put ourselves out there. And really, we are, each and every one of us individually, fantastic and great. And I want everyone today to leave this podcast getting back in touch with that greatness that's within themselves. Sound like a plan?
Yeah, let's do it.
So you guys, Lisa, she is on a mission to help others really spread their generational strengths, cultivate resilience, and live regret-free. Imagine that life. I love this mission. You know, she is a visual storyteller. She's got through her, the marketing agency that she runs. She also has an off-Broadway, one-woman show. She's a screenwriter and actress. She is a performer, and she performed that show all over the world now, right? Mm-hmm. So she is also an amazing best-selling author, an award-winning playwright, and a TEDx speaker. So Lisa, she is awesome, period. Where, why, what brought you into this pathway that you've taken in life where you've done all these things, where you said, you know what, I'm not shrinking, I'm not hiding, I'm putting myself right there, literally center stage with your show that you do?
Yeah, I joke that it's like a midlife crisis. Like I hit 40 and I was like, I'm just not messing around anymore.
Right.
When I was 16, I can remember driving my very first car. It was this white Dodge Neon. It had a sunroof. I was so excited to have my license. I loved driving this thing, blasting my music with the sun shining down on me. And one day I was coming home from high school volleyball practice. I played on the volleyball team, and I had my friend Mary was in the seat next to me. I was driving her home. We lived in the same town. And I was driving. I felt so cool in this car, right? And I was driving, but I was a very responsible driver, even though it was very cool. I was like, I'm going to obey the speed limit. I'm going to do all the right things, right? We pulled into my town, which was a 2-lane. I grew up in like a really small coal mining town, like the Cheers bar. Everybody knows your name. So I pulled into this little town, and we pulled into a stop. So I slowed down and I stopped because there were cars making a left-hand turn. And there was nowhere to go on the right because we were in town. So I was like, cool, I'll just wait. I'll vibe to my music. Me and Mary are loving life. And as the cars are turning, I'm like, okay, wait, patience, stop. Cars are turning, waiting my turn to go, stopped. I happened to look in the rearview mirror, and this massive black Suburban was barreling full speed ahead. I could not see the driver's head. He was tucked down below, messing with the radio, messing with something on the ground. I don't know what he was messing with. but he was barreling full speed ahead. I couldn't go left because the cars were turning. I couldn't go right because there were parked cars on the side in this little town. I looked at Mary and I said, brace yourself. We're going to be hit. I will never forget the sound of that Suburban smashing into the back of that car. I could feel the jolt forward. I could hear the smash of the windows. It was like time had stopped and was standing still.
Yes.
That screech of everything, that huge crash. And when I opened my eyes, I realized two things. One, Mary and I, by the grace of whatever you believe in, were okay. A miracle that we didn't have scratches, nothing broken. We were alive, we were talking. Secondly, my back seat had become my front seat.
Oh my goodness.
My first thought, oh my God, my parents are going to kill me. Like, I'm dead. I'm dead. I pull over to the side of the road, and I remember I didn't have a cell phone at the time. A kind person stopped, lent me their phone. I called my dad. I said, Dad, I told him where I am. I said, I got rear-ended. I got in an accident. There was nothing I could do. Please come. My dad asked the address, came. Ambulance came, fire came, police came. Then my parents came. And my dad, when he got out of his car, the first thing he did was he went over and he looked at my neon. He went to the car. Mom got out, mumbling under her breath, and she goes to the car. And I will never forget feeling like that car was more important than my life.
Wow.
Greatness is not something that I ever thought that I was. Greatness was not something that I ever felt was in my destiny. I was the person that wanted to disappear as fast as possible, be the most unmemorable, unrecognizable person in a room. Because if I wasn't seen and I wasn't heard, I couldn't get bullied, I couldn't be criticized. I would love to say that that was a one-off. You know, I was afraid of my parents growing up in a home where my mom was narcissistic. I never knew what I was going to be met with. You know, I just didn't think my life was worth much. And a lot of dreams, I call them your pocket dreams.
Yes.
I put on the shelf. I put in my pocket. You know, I wanted to always be doing this one-woman off-Broadway show. I wanted to be in theater. I wanted to express. I would make up stories with my friends and choreograph dance moves. I had this life and this zest, you know, for performing and storytelling, and it just wasn't allowed. So I just put it in my pocket. You know, I always wanted to be a teacher and a speaker. I just put it in my pocket. And I did what I was supposed to do. I did what my parents wanted me to do. I did the life that they set out for me. I did. And it was never enough. It was never enough for them, and it was never enough for me. So when I hit 40, and it was actually pandemic, and I was like, well, everything's going to, you know, HE double hockey sticks. Everything's going to crap. Then, did anybody say HE double hockey sticks?
I got it.
I don't know if I can curse on this thing. If everything's going to crap, like, what do I want to be? Not do. What do I want to be? What do I want to stand for? What are these pocket dreams that I forgot about? And I was in a mastermind, the same group where we met, you know, drawn out our 10-year plan and our big, hairy, scary goal. And for the first time in my life, I didn't overthink it. Because to stay safe in my life and to achieve what I achieved, I would overthink, I would overplan, I would over everything. I was like, let me just see what comes out. And this one-woman show came out, and I'm like, where the heck does that come from? I'd never done anything like it. I was a nurse. I went to nursing school. I worked as a nurse. Like, I had nothing creative whatsoever in my life. And it was when I looked at that, I knew I had a decision to make. And I looked at that paper, and then I said, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm giving myself the permission to feed into this creative side of me that was dying to come up and out. So we have these pocket dreams, these little nudges that just want to be seen and heard, that little inner child or that little voice that says, go do this. And then we go, oh, no.
That's scary.
Who do you think you like? That gremlin comes out. Who
Yes.
do you think you are? You're too old. You're too this. You're too loud. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You haven't been trained. I mean, whatever comes out, it's like, who do you think you are? And who do you think you are? You're the person that needs to go for this thing that desperately wants to come up and out. Because when we don't let it come up and out, that's when we get way off path. Right? That's when we get distracted. That's when life becomes harder than it needs to be because we're shutting down that innate knowing of where we should go and what we should do.
Yeah, it's so funny. And the thing is, it's like it's self-perpetuating because the more we shut that thing down, right? The more we bury those dreams, the more really inauthentic we are with ourselves, which makes us feel more and more like this imposter. And we are an imposter because we're just shutting ourselves down. We're not bringing our gifts, our dreams, our talents, our things out into the world. I mean, this is, to be totally honest and vulnerable, it's like this is part of even what I'm going through or go through or have gone through. I'd like to think I'm making good progress. Here we are on this podcast, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, sure, there's this conversation like, you look at all these big social media people and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be all over social media. I don't want to be making those posts or things like that. And it's like, well, why not? Why is my message or my gifts any less valuable than those other people? Why am I even comparing myself to those other people, right? They're great. That doesn't mean that I can't be great. We can both be great because we bring something different to the table.
That's exactly it. And it's scary. And the fear is real. It is real.
Yes.
Not being chased by a bear real, but real of like when you don't have a roadmap that you've seen before you. So I didn't have a roadmap of parenting that I wanted to follow. There's nobody in my friends or family circle that had ever done a one-woman show. I just recently wrote a movie, like that had ever wrote a movie, any of it, even in business, running. I have a family, I have a husband, I have a son. I know you have a family as well. It's like, I didn't have a model of how to be. I didn't come from an entrepreneurial or business owning background. I didn't have a roadmap or a model of someone that I could say, I want to do it like that. Yeah. And that's where it gets scary when you know what you don't want. You're like, I don't want to show up and do that and do that. How do I make this my own? How do I do it in my own way? And I think we're so afraid to be the first person to take those steps to do it in our own way. But the cool part is when you do, people do come to help you. People do come to say, hey, I know something that can help you do it this way. People don't want to do the same old boring, mundane, our brain likes it likes new. We like new things. So when we see somebody doing something that we've never seen before and we can help, it's like, hey, I can help you. Hey, let me, come together with you and let's do this together. And then it gets less scary because then you're not alone. You're doing it, but you're doing it with people.
Yeah. And it's getting to that space, I think, is where people struggle the most. I know. So your off-Broadway show is Too Big for Her Britches. Is that right? It's Too Big for Her Britches. And I remember the first time that we met one-on-one, you were on the side of the road. We were in front of a theater that we had an event at. And I stopped you. I'm like, Lisa, I've got to tell you. So when I was little, I was on the safety patrol. I was really, really proud. I sent this letter to all the teachers. I was going to make safety patrol so much better. And the next day, the principal calls me into her office and she sat me down and I'm like, I'm proud. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to acknowledge me for my hard work. And this is so great. And she's like, young lady, you are too big for your britches. So I remember, I stopped on the side of the road. I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what the principal told me. But you know what? that is one of those pivotal moments in my life where I shut down,
Yeah.
where it was like, oh my gosh, like maybe I need to just tone it down. Like, tone it down, Danielle. You're a little too much. Tone it down. And then we have these series of events in life where people are like, tone it down, tone it down. But instead of following our heart, we listen to the criticism as if the criticism is real,
Right. Right.
right? If
Yeah.
it's real. There's feedback, and I think feedback is important. We should all take feedback. It's part of how we learn and grow. But if we take it and we absorb it as criticism and we make it mean something negative about ourselves, we then stuff ourselves literally into a pocket, like you said, and we shrink who we are.
Yeah. It's like that phrase that we've heard of, you'll never be criticized by someone who's doing more than you. And that is so the truth. When you go after whatever that greatness is inside of you, whatever your greatness looks like. Yes, that might be a one-woman show or a TEDx talk or any of these like notable big things, right?
Yeah.
That we perceive as the marker of success.
Yes.
It's never about the thing.
Yes.
It's who you've become along the way when you choose to go after the thing. So the thing is like the cherry on top. Like, I wrote a book, or I got a TEDx talk, or, I got a promotion or whatever. It's these little, success is in the inches. It's in the inches. When everybody's looking for a shortcut, I am always looking for the mountain. So the mountain is the TEDx talk or the show or the movie or a revenue goal in our marketing business. But the decisions that I had to make along the way to get there is really where greatness, it's not that achievement of the thing that's greatness. It's the decisions you had to make along the way. And a lot of times it's ignoring those people that are so desperately trying to shut you down. I mean, even I was watching the SAG Awards for actors, and Timothy Chalamet, who in his acceptance speech, he was saying, I know people don't talk, he literally said, I know people don't talk about greatness, but I want to be one of the greats. And I stand on the backs of, Viola Davis and Denzel Washington and, Brad Pitt, like all these people he was naming. And people were like, oh, who is he to say he wants to be great? So
Right.
we scoff at this greatness. We try to shut down. Who do you think you are trying to do this good thing? We don't need you to be doing this good thing.
Yes.
And all that is someone who didn't go after their dream is still in their pocket. They didn't have the courage and the bravery to go after their dream. They never pulled it out of their pocket. And now your courage makes them feel less than. So they want to shut it down. And that's where it's like, you got to stay so rooted in why you're doing what you're doing. I know that's overplayed, but it's the truth. If you're doing it because you want that achievement, you want to say, I'm a best-selling author, I'm a TEDx speaker, I'm a da-da-da-da-da. That's not what we're wired for. We're wired for the connection. We're wired for the connection to ourselves, our connection to others, and who we become, who we have to become, because you're going to get your butt kicked.
Yes.
I'm human, so I feel the emotions, but I don't get surprised anymore getting the door slammed in my face, because I'm like, oh, no one's ever tried to open this door before, and now I understand why that's getting slammed in my face, right? No one's ever, I call it your pockets of sunshine. These are your pockets of sunshine where you're like, oh, I got that door slammed in my face, but I opened another door. Ooh, that person tried to tell me I was too big for my britches, I was too bossy, I was too whatever, and I went, thank you very much. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to go, I'm just, thank you very much. God bless you. I'm going to keep moving kind of thing. Yes. These little pockets of sunshine where you go just a little inch further. You choose yourself. You choose to stay positive. You choose to keep going in spite of. You choose to dust yourself off. You choose to ask for help. You choose to go, I don't know what I'm doing. Is there anyone out there that does? That's been like the common question for me in anything I've ever done. I'm like, I think we see that as a weakness.
Yes.
Because again, it's like, oh, if I say I don't know what I'm doing, then all those gremlins, all those things that your mother said to you, your fifth grade teacher said to you, then it's proof that I'm dumb, that I don't know what I'm doing, that I'm not good enough, that I'll never be X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
No, it's the opposite. You cannot get to that mountain without asking for help along the way. You're not meant to figure it out. And people a lot of times know more than you do. When you're blazing a path that you know nothing about, you gotta rely on other people. You get to be the decision maker, but you gotta rely on other people. You decide what's right for you, but you gotta ask for help from other people to be able to weigh out what your options are and what you should do. We need people. So it's pockets of sunshine are those people and those decisions that move us towards the top of that mountain.
I love that. It's really about it's really about standing up for yourself and standing up for your own greatness and
Yeah,
knowing that it's okay. It's funny, as you're talking about this, it reminds me I started doing, personal growth and development work when I was, in my late teens, when I was in college, and I was like, oh my gosh, I came across the Landmark Forum and I like jumped in and I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember like, on the final day you have a declaration. It's like, who I am is the possibility of greatness.
yeah,
And it was like, I was so inspired by that. But you know what? And it's the beginning of my journey.
yeah,
It had nothing to do with me. It was
yes,
all about like who I am is I'm going to stand for everybody else's greatness. And at
yes,
one point in my life, I realized like, holy crap, I forgot that I also need to stand for myself,
yeah,
right? I can take care of everybody else. I can stand for everybody else's dreams. What we do in our family for our children and their dreams is a little unreal. The
yeah,
life that we live, but it's all about their dreams. And then at some point I'm like, well, what about me? Like, when am I going to stand for myself? And I
yeah,
see this so much, like even with my clients, we have a lot of our clients are women and they're out and they're for everybody else and not for themselves. And when you stop and you say, hey, well, what's stopping you from themselves? It is, the little gremlin voices that
yeah,
you spoke about that say, hey, well, don't do that. Or, hey, you can't get too big. Or, hey, don't say those things. Don't do those things. Don't put yourself in the spotlight. People are going to criticize you. I mean, gosh, social media, people are rude and,
oh, brutal,
people don't really treat each other that way when they're eye to eye. It's amazing what people do when they're not eye to eye. But
right, right,
gosh, you're like, oh my goodness, no wonder why people are shutting down. But it's like stepping into yourself and believing in yourself. And I love what you say. You're like, okay, well, listen, God bless you.
yeah,
Thank you. And I'm moving on to the next person. I don't need that, right? Like that doesn't need to be part of my realm. I can choose to actually say, you know what? That was whatever it is that they've got going on, and they can, we'll keep that over there. I'm still moving forward.
yeah. It's I again, like growing up with a mom who's narcissistic. It's like I always had to read the room of how she was and then morph myself to be what she needed me to be to keep myself safe.
Yes.
So I always say, like, I'm 43 now. It literally took me until I was like 40, 41 to actually know like who I actually am. And I think a lot of women, whether you have a background like upbringing like mine or not, that's very real. This be a good girl.
Sure.
Women have to take on the emotional load for everyone. It's like we're society wants to ingrain what women are supposed to do and be. And I think when we lose ourselves in that process, and then we go, well, who am I, and what do I
Yes.
like, and what do I want to do, and what do I not want to do, and
Yes.
it took me 4 decades to even figure out like who the heck am I, and that was one of the beautiful blessings of stepping into the acting world, and all of this is that you have to know the best actors are the ones that are in touch with themselves.
Mm.
Because when you're trying to be what you think somebody wants, it falls flat. When you're trying to manufacture, well, this character is a badass, or this character is a jerk, or this character's a loving, perfect mom, or this character's a bad guy, so they're going to act bad this way. No, you have to find the truth of that character and the truth of the reality that they're living in. And in order to bring the truth, you have to know yourself, because you bring your truth. And that's such a metaphor, like for life for me, that I was like, oh, if I want to be a good actor and I want to bring the truth to this character, then I have to know who I am. And at like 40 years old, I'm like, who am I? I don't know, because I had just taken on all these roles and titles and phrases and labels of what I thought I had to be to stay safe in the world. And another part of that pocket of sunshine is healing all those gremlins in your head who you think, you know, the triggers and the glimmers. It's like those glimmers of hope when you don't get triggered by, oh, I have to overwork this, because if I'm number one, then I'm good enough. Right?
Yes.
I have to just smile and agree with things that I don't agree with.
Right.
Everyone like me. You know, being great, you're okay with not being liked. You're okay.
Yes.
You're okay with it because it doesn't affect you. You're like, I know who I am. You know, that's the thing now that I know who I am. I can put my head on my pillow at the end of the night, can kiss my son goodnight, and I can put my head, you know, on my pillow at night and go, okay, I know who I am. I know I did good work today. Or, ooh, I know I messed that up today. Ooh, today was not a proud day. I'm going to work on that tomorrow. You know, it's not, being great is not about perfection. Being great is not about saying the right thing, doing the right thing. We're messy humans. We're messy.
Oh, yes.
And that's the way it's supposed to be, because sometimes when you make the biggest perceived mess up, you learn the most. And that is a part of the process. Again, everyone thinks, oh, greatness means I'm great all the time. I always say the right things. I always do the right things. It's like the opposite. You're messing up probably 95% of the time, but you're those inches again, you're learning and you're shifting and you're making a different choice and a different decision. And all the while you're finding out who you are in the process, which is very cool.
It's beautiful, isn't it? It's beautiful to know that in the crap of life, there's actually roses underneath it, because everything that happens, the good, the bad, the ugly, is always an opportunity for us to learn and grow from who we are. You know, so for me, like recently, I went through this whole TEDx experience, and it was a lot of work, and I put a lot of effort into it. And then TEDx is like, oh, we're censoring your talk, because I still don't know the reason. But I had to like step back. I had to hear all the little gremlin voices. And those voices actually propelled me even further than if I didn't have that experience, believe it or not. If everything was totally smooth, I wouldn't have had to hear the voices. I wouldn't have had to look at like, oh, look at that. You see, I've got this belief that things don't really ever work out for me. Darn, I better start to take a look at that and see where that comes from. You know, because goodness knows I want to heal that for myself, because so long as I carry it with it, it impacts my children and their children and their children and their children. So like, wow, it's like, okay, so this thing happened that some people might say is so terrible. And I'm like, there's some roses here. Let's go smell those roses. Let's check them out and let's work with them, right? Let's make a beautiful bouquet.
Yes.
Out of the roses that we dig out from underneath the poop. But that's the beauty of life, is it doesn't matter what the experience is. It depends on how we look at it and what our perspective is with that experience. Because I could have stayed muddled in the poop. And, you know, I gave myself a few hours. You know, I'm like, okay, you can muddle here because you want to muddle here, but you can't stay here. You can't stay in the poop. You've got to go through the poop and get to the other side. Hey, this is Dr. D. I just wanted to remind you that you can get started on your true wellness journey. Go ahead and check the show notes and grab a link to the True Wellness Checklist. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, we always have the choice to make whatever meaning we want to make out of our life, right? So you could say, "Oh, I did TEDx and I put in all this time and I put in all this money and I put in all this work, and in the end, it didn't even get approved and it sucked. It was the worst thing I've ever done. What a waste of time." Right?
Yeah.
Which, like you said, part of you, that voice is very real, and that does come up. It's always like, "Oh, be grateful, find the positive meaning." Yes, but we also are allowed to go, "Well, that really sucked."
Yeah.
And like you said, and to stay in that for a second, or however long you need to stay in that. And then you go, "Okay, how do I make meaning out of this?" So I learned in my TEDx, speaking for you, right? And me, I did TEDx too. It's like I learned something, a cause or a statement or a thing that means so much to me that I wanted to take it to a TEDx stage. There is meaning in this message that I want to get out to the world.
Yes.
For whatever reason, TEDx is doing their thing. Okay, so that door was slammed in my face. Not going to maybe happen. Maybe it will. I'm open for the fact that maybe it will happen. Maybe it won't. But now I got to find another way to get this message out to the world. I got to find a different avenue, a different platform, a different person to partner with, a different something, because I still feel so strongly rooted in that message. That message has to get, the message isn't going to die. Just that door, that avenue that I thought it was going to be out in just isn't going to be the path for me. Okay, great. Again, I don't know how many times I've said that in my life. I'm like, "Oh, that's not going to be the path for me." So interesting, and you're like,
"Yes,
"Oh, but I wanted that to be the path. That path made sense." And now you're like, "Damn, now I got to go make sense out of this other path." Yeah, you do, because other people have probably not taken that path yet, and you got to find that path for you. So again, you're exactly right. It's like we have to feel the feelings, but then we have to find a way to make meaning out of it so that we keep going. Because if it stayed at that old story, "Oh, look, see, I shouldn't have done that. I'm not good enough." Who do I think I am? Too big for my britches, going on this TEDx. Right?
Yeah.
Greatness dies when we allow that, to win. And the greatness was never in the TEDx. The greatness was in this message that you uncovered that you want the world to know. Now you just have to find a different way to get it out, which you're already doing, to get it out into the world. So in a way, it's like that no, or that slam door is like the launching pad to something totally different. Because if your TEDx would have got approved, you would have, just like you said, you would have closed that chapter and went, "That's lovely.
Yes.
It's out there. Off you go." Now it added more fuel to this fire because you got that door slammed. For whatever reason, you got that door slammed in your face. So now you're like, "Ouch. Ooh, thank you. Great. Now I got to go find a different way to get this thing." That's greatness. That's that micro decision where you're like, "Oh, okay, let me find a different way." That's greatness right there.
Yeah, I really want our listeners to understand that it doesn't matter what life throws at you, right? You can choose not to have it take you down. And it might take something to get there, right? But what I find is that the beauty in not letting anything take you down, it does mean, like, yeah, we're human. So you're gonna start to feel the pull, but you've got to hear the internal dialogue that's doing the pulling, because there is gold. There are golden nuggets into that dialogue where you can say, "Oh, isn't that interesting? I just heard myself say nothing ever works out for me. Let me be really curious about that. Why did my little gremlin voice say that? Where does that come from? And by the way, where else is that bringing me down in my life? Where else does that have me shoving things in my pocket? And now guess what? Now I'm in my pocket and I can see what else is in there that needs to come out." So it's beautiful.
And that pocket is heavy when we just keep stuffing stuff in there and we never have the courage to take it out, right? It's like you're not meant to carry your dreams in your pocket. You're not meant to carry those gremlin voices in your head. You're not meant to carry any of that. It's like it's got to come up and it's got to come out, right? Because if you're weighed down, you're not going to get to the top of that mountain, whatever that mountain is. And I think the last thing, you know, for me is I call it like these power pockets, where it's interesting because whenever I started doing the one woman show, people were like, oh, so you just stopped doing the marketing agency then, and your husband just took over the agency, and like, you know, you just like stopped. People didn't say you stopped being a mom, because we never stopped being a mom. But it's like everyone just assumed that I just like, you know, declared that I was going to do this thing, and then everything went to there. No, I still had to be a mother, run my household, run my son who's in flag football and soccer and like all the things, right? Be the soccer mom, 2 dogs, 2 cats. We were talking about our pets before this, right? Look after them, plus run our agency, because, you know, when you do something new, like that show was almost like a startup business. Like, it doesn't make money in the beginning. It's not a money-making thing, you know? So I had to figure out, because that's everything. People go, I can't be great. I have no time. Like, who the heck has time to be great? You don't know my life. Like, I got to look after this, and I'm working, and I have kids, and I have a job, and I have a sick mom, or I have a whatever. I call these power pockets in that, again, those inches, like 15 minutes a day of intentional time can get you so far ahead. And that was what I started doing. I started blocking out half-hour to hour chunks with no distractions, when all I was doing was writing my show, rehearsing, you know, getting on a call and working with a movement coach or a writing coach, or again, I had to have people. I had no idea what I was doing. I had to hire a whole bunch of people. And it was like, I did start to kind of segment my life. And I'm not saying this works for everyone, but that's what I did. I was like, this hour, I'm a marketer. This hour, I'm mom, till he goes off to school. This hour, I'm one woman show, playwright, you know, but I knew what my goal was in that time. I wasn't trying to be a mother and a marketer and a one woman show writer and a dog walker and a, you know, grocery shopper. I wasn't trying to do all those things. When you think about school, right, our kids, how they don't learn science and math and English in the same hour. They have their classes and their subjects, and it's segmented and blocked off. And I call them these little power pockets. Once you add all those little pockets up, you've got something. You've done it. Whether that's quiet time to journal, like you said, whether it's just going and walking around the block for 10 minutes to clear your head.
Right.
Who am I and what do I want, or what is this voice I'm arguing with in my head? Just giving you that space. Again, people think we just need all this time, all this chunk of time.
Right.
You know, or we have to give up something to get something. And I've just never had that luxury in my life to be able to go, well, not going to do that. Going to put all my time and focus to this. I've built, you know, when I was a nurse, I was building our marketing agency, and that's what allowed me to leave nursing. Yes. And then in this marketing agency, I started pursuing this creative side of me with the show and the movie. And so I'm working the agency while I've always kind of been multi-passionate or I've just never singularly done one thing.
Yes.
But I've never let that excuse of, well, I don't have the time, stop me from being great or pursuing what greatness is. Because for me, it all spills over. The better actor and playwright and songwriter and singer that I am, the better mother that I am, the better marketer that I am. Because you just pick up these skills along the way that transfer beautifully across all that you do.
I love that. I think time is one of our biggest excuses. And don't sit here as a hypocrite. I tell you, I use that time stuff and I'm like, oh, darn, Danielle, you're pulling the time card. What you doing, girl? You know, like, let's put the time card down and let's figure this out another way. But it's so easy to pull the time card these days.
It is.
And what I hear you saying is like, hey, no dream is worth putting in your pocket for the sake of time, right? Because if that dream is really important to you, then you need to get that on your schedule and you need to make that block. I mean, in our practice, one of the biggest things that I will continue over and over to counsel women with is, hey, where's the time for you on your schedule,
Yep.
right? Yep, you've got all these wonderful things that are going on. Where have you put in 15 minutes for you to do nothing or whatever it is that you want to do for you? And let's admit it, especially if you're a mom, not only if you're a mom, but especially if you're a mom, there's all these things that are happening day by day. I mean, heck, especially when my kids were younger, like even toilet time was not alone, and so maybe it is that we need to go into the bathroom, close the door so that no one can come in and distract us, so that we have our me time. But we've got to stop using time as an excuse. And we've got to put those priorities, because where we are investing our time and energy, those are the things that are going to grow.
Yeah. And it's committing. When I first started, I would put that time block in my planner, but then something else would eke in. Like,
Yeah.
I'd be like, this is my hour for me. And then a client would be like, that's the only time I could meet. And I'd be like, okay, I'll cancel my time. And then I was like, I have to stop doing that. Like, I wouldn't do that to a client. If I
Yes.
set client schedule at a time, I wouldn't go up to them and be like, you know what? I have a change of plans. We're not going to meet today. I'm going to do it. They'd be like, what? We had that scheduled. Like, I moved my whole life around. I was planning on this, but we do it to ourselves.
We
So the
do.
second part of put your power pocket in, but then you have to have the discipline to go, I'm worth it. I'm worth, stepping into that and not letting anything else come in and take that time. Then you got to follow through. Again, I think people think greatness comes from being always motivated and always in the right mindset. No, it comes from your commitments that you're not willing to give up on, your commitments that you're honoring that you're going to do. So you put that time in, and then you got to follow through and honor it. Because again, when we look at everything we've been talking about today, greatness is truly within you. You are the driver. You are the driver of your emotions. You are the driver of your decisions. You are the driver of your schedule. Like, you are the driver, for the most part, you're the driver, of that. So don't cancel on yourself.
Yes, it's so powerful, because think about it, Lisa. What is the message that you're sending to yourself unconsciously? It's like, yes, I'm going to stand for my greatness. I can be great. And yet then you're like, oh, but I'm not really that important.
Right.
So then how, like, it's an immediate out of integrity with yourself. And then no wonder why you feel like, ugh, mushy, right? And then no wonder why then people begin to quit, because they're already out of integrity. And that feeling of out of integrity is so yucky that it's easier not to feel it than to sit with it and be like, okay, let me just recommit, And so, I encourage our listeners to look at, like, where are you out of integrity with yourself, right? Where are you out of integrity with yourself? Where are you unconsciously telling yourself, I'm not as important as somebody or something else?
Yes. Huge. That's exactly it. 100%. Yep. Oh, I know. I love this. And if greatness, is a word that you're not familiar with, like, again, that just wasn't a word I ever heard growing up. It just wasn't a word I ever thought would be possible for me. But if there's any kind of like itch around that word, change it. Maybe it doesn't have to be greatness, right? Maybe it's powerful. Maybe it's beautiful. Maybe it's grounded. Maybe it's loving. Maybe it's, whatever. Again, there's no rules. There really aren't any rules for how you go after what this highest self or best self, or even what's possible for you. I never wanted my limited capacity to forecast the future hold me back from my current reality. It's like, we don't even know. We can't forecast what the future will hold. We can't forecast what's ahead. But I don't ever want to let my limited capacity stop me from going after what I want to be and what I want to have in my life. It's like, oh, greatness. No, don't like the word. Oh, then pick a different word.
I love that. But that's what we do, right? As human beings, we're like, oh, I can't be that. I can't do that. I can't have that. And we already shut ourselves down before we've even tried to get there. And it's like, whoa, wait a second. What are you doing? Like you already decided you failed. You didn't even try yet. What the heck? But
Exactly.
that is like, it's safer, right? We're not in that out of integrity space with ourselves. But
Yeah.
that's where we grow, right? We grow in the space of like, oh, wait a second, let me examine that. Okay,
Yeah.
like maybe I'm
Yeah.
missing
That,
something.
and that's truly living. People think that that's life. Like that is really the pursuit of a great or excellent life, is just going for it. You learn so much when you just have the courage. And again, we're moms. It's like our kids. I was laughing the other night. My son got into watching this WWE, the wrestling thing. We don't watch any of that in our life. But the gentleman, my friend who I made a movie with, like loves, the wrestling. So he was telling my son about it. So my son was watching it on, Netflix or whatever we were going through. And my son looks at me, Oliver, and he's like, Mom, he's like, do you want to be in the WWE? Oh, buddy, no, right? You could do it, Mom. You could do it. And he spent like 20, maybe he'll be a lawyer in his life. He spent like 20 minutes trying to convince me why
Oh,
I should go and be in the WWE. But, it made me realize, like, he's now seeing that Mom at 43 is like going after her dreams.
right.
Number two, I'm like, thank you for believing in my athletic ability. But, that I could do that, because I do exercise, and healthy movement is a pillar. Healthy eating is a pillar. But if I was a mom who wasn't going after greatness and I wasn't going after my dreams, he would never think to look over at me and be like, Mom, you should do that. And it's like, that's the coolest part, is that our kids, or the people, whether it's if you don't have children, just even the people around you in your circle of influence, you inspire so many people that you don't even know you're inspiring. They may never even tell you to your face,
Yes.
but in those quiet moments, when they have to make those decisions in those inches, they're going to think of you, and they're going to go, well, if Danielle did it, Dr. D did it, I can do it. If Lisa did it,
Yes.
I can do it. And it's like, that's that full circle of, that's a cool life. That's a cool world when everybody's going for greatness and going for that thing they
Yeah.
should do. Don't die with those dreams in your pocket. Life's too short. Yeah.
So true. I love that. I love that. Well, Lisa, I'm so grateful. You are a true inspiration. I mean, you've got this amazing marketing company, and you work with TEDx speakers to help them get to the TEDx stage. You've got this off-Broadway one-woman show that you're doing all over the world. You've just acted and produced your own movie. Holy cow.
Yep.
Like you are the epitome of going after greatness. So give give our audience, I always like to ask our guests, what are 3 things you can leave our audience with, actions that they can begin to take right now so that they too can step into their greatness?
Yeah. So the first thing is that, definitely that pocket dream. Start to just journal and write. Wouldn't it be cool if? Wouldn't it be amazing if? And just see what comes out. Wouldn't it be amazing? For me, it was like, wouldn't it be amazing if I did a one-woman show? Oh. For some people, it's like, wouldn't it be amazing if I took every Friday off, if you're in charge of your own schedule? Or wouldn't it be amazing if I went for a walk every day? Like, just start to ask yourself that question. Wouldn't it be amazing if? And see, wouldn't it be amazing if I took a trip to Italy? You're like, where did that come from? Like, just see, what comes out. That's the first thing. Allow yourself that permission to bring out those pocket dreams, to pull them out of your pocket. Second one, definitely those power pockets. In order to do that, make sure on your schedule somewhere there is time for you, whether it's time to grow, time to learn, or time to just be, time to just not, to like schedule yourself to unschedule, that you've got some space to just be. You have to be on your calendar. And that last one is definitely those pockets of sunshine. So, whether that's therapy is something that was huge for me. Like, I've been in a decade of therapy. I think therapy means you're strong, not you're weak. It's just an outside person to help you get through those gremlin voices in your head.
Yes.
We're not meant to do this alone. So it's like those pockets of sunshine come from asking for help, making those, acknowledging both ways, whether it's like, ooh, I messed that up really bad. Okay, here's the next decision I'm gonna take. I'm gonna do it different. Or like, hey, I did a good thing there. Like that little, patting yourself on the back along the way. Right? We forget to enjoy those little wins along the way. So make sure that you're allowing those pockets of sunshine, whether it's people, whether it's a win, celebrate along the way. And I think those are the three things that have really changed everything. There's nothing else that you do. Even just start with that first one, those pocket dreams. What do you want to have in your life? Who do you want to be? And get to know. It's okay if you're in your 40s or your 50s or your 60s and you still don't know who you are. There's no time better than now to explore who you are and what you want in your life.
I love that. Thank you so much for your time today, Lisa. I know we'll have all your contact information in the show notes here for the podcast, but tell us, how can people find you? What are some of the best ways for them to find you and learn more?
Yes, absolutely. So if you just Google my name, Lisa Pezik, Lisapezik, you'll find Lisa Pezik is my Instagram, Lisa Pezik is my Facebook, Lisa Pezik is my LinkedIn. Our company is called Infinite Design House. So www.Infinite Design House is the agency, and then Too Big For Her Britches is the one-woman show if you want to see more about that. But those are the best ways to get a hold of me. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Thanks, everyone. This is Dr. D reminding you to tune into your body, connect with what matters, and embrace the journey to true wellness. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to redefine their health. Be sure to grab a copy of the True Wellness Checklist right in the show notes. Let's keep redefining wellness and empowering change together. See you for the next episode.